Welcome. How are you guys?
Good.
Fantastic.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. I am Danielle Diliberti, co-founder and CEO of Sommsation. With me, I have invited Matt Hessinger and Paul Sutter to join me in having a glass of wine as well as a little bit of a fireside chat this evening. I'm going to open mine in a second. Why don't you both introduce yourselves and then let's get it off.
Thank you, Danielle. By the way, that CV Carabina is a really nice bottle of wine. I'm Matt Hessinger, CTO of Sommsation, one of the co-founders. Really looking forward to sharing some of our insights around data and integration tonight. And I've got in my glass a little bit of Halter Ranch's Grenache Blanc. This is actually a grape that I got introduced to from them, and it's become kind of a staple in our white wine portfolio. So again, looking forward to the conversation we're going to have tonight.
Hi, everyone. I'm Paul Sutter. I lead digital product at Sommsation. And what that means is I'm trying to find ways to make it fun and effortless for people to find and buy great wine online. And it worked for me because I have the Willow Creek GSM here. It's actually called the Other Rivers. That's from Willow Creek Winery up in Paso Robles. That's Natalie and Brian Brown, and fantastic, lovely people. Great to be here. It's going to be a fun chat.
So a while back, we shared an update on how we approach our data environment, our data lake city, aptly named Lucerne, after a city in Switzerland. Today, Danielle, Paul, and I will go a little broader in terms of the dimensions of data integration and how it impacts all aspects of any business, especially in a world where agentic AI is at the forefront of business interaction. It's a unique situation we have here at Sommsation. The three of us have been CTOs. We've each led teams in businesses. We've worked at organizations of various sizes. I mean, in Paul's case, the U.S. Army would be considered a very extremely large organization. At the same time, we have many different viewpoints gathered from our long careers. So we hope this combination of shared experiences and varied perspectives gives our subject matter today something useful for you to consider and triggers thoughts about how those concepts apply to your business.
Thanks, Matt. And before we, kind of get into the details of Lucerne and AI, I want to just stop and really frame the shift that we're all living through. It's just a really interesting time. So for, let's call it 2 decades or so, software has assumed that a human is in the loop, an operator, someone who could interpret data, process gaps, reconcile contradictions, and really carry context from one system to the next, whether that's through batch jobs or some of the more common integrations and APIs. As humans, we figure it out when the systems don't. But with the rise of AI agents, that really changes the context completely. Agent architectures just aren't great at navigating interfaces or inferring their way through inconsistencies today. And I think most of us can agree that there's a lot of inconsistencies when it comes to data and information. Agents need a world underneath them that is coherent from the start. And honestly, most organizations just are not built like that yet.
It's totally right. I mean, a human can sense when 2 dashboards disagree and make an educated guess about what they should do in that situation. Software agents, not so much. I mean, if the data environments are fragmented, that agent's understanding and their worldview is just going to collapse immediately.
Yeah, and you guys know this, that most people, and I'll lump in there some pretty sophisticated technologists, they don't realize that. They're going to frame the challenge as data availability or latency. That's a latency problem. And the real issue at hand is structural alignment, the continuity. And when the data environment just doesn't have that coherent shape, you're not transforming raw data into actionable information. It was still going to rely on that old school, brittle, slow process. Do you remember the overnight batches? They still exist.
Exactly, Paul. More often than we probably want to admit. Not at Sommsation, so cheers to that. But I've noticed that when people start to understand why structural continuity matters so much, everything starts to really make sense for them if they're not in it day to day. They stop thinking in terms of isolated tools and start seeing the environment underneath it for what it is and all the power that can come with it. Matt, you're great at explaining this and managing this. Can you share some intuition behind how you think about different perspectives on data?
Sure. I'll try to keep it intuitive. I often draw on analogies from music. That's something that I practice and perform quite a lot. But I'll pull something today from conversations with my dad. He did a classical languages PhD in the late 60s, which was heavily based on data, and then went on to teach mathematics. So one good mental model I've found for this situation actually comes from calculus. It's not from the nitty-gritty equations. It's not anything like that. It's really just the way the calculus helps us understand systems. So you have two very complementary perspectives: the derivative, that rate of change over time, and the integral, that accumulated structure over time. But neither of these is enough on its own to understand the system. To understand where a system is going, you need to understand what it's doing now, how it's changing now, how it got to be what it is now.
Yeah, and it's those perspectives, Matt, those reasons. It's why we built the tools that we use today. Everyone needs to understand, like you're saying, everyone needs to understand where they have been, where they're going, but you do that by understanding why. Or as Danielle likes to say, please skate to where the puck is going, not where it's been.
Exactly. I mean, we have tools that facilitate pushing our first-party product data out, and those give us that integral, the catalog, the pricing dynamics, the inventory shape. In other words, that durable structure of the business at any given time and how it's changed over time. Tools that in turn assist our ability to bring in data from multiple sources, especially in real time, give us that derivative, those real-time signals, the slope of demand, the immediate movements. Both views are accurate, both views are necessary, and both views integrated in the way they are make our data environment that much more effective. Right now, as we approach 2026, and a lot of businesses out there, those two views live in many completely separate systems.
Right. And I think when those perspectives, often the source of truth, live in separate systems, no agent and honestly no human can actually make sense of how the business behaves.
That's right, Danielle. And as Matt was describing, even when the data is correct, the views across those different systems create completely disconnected meaning. Dare I say, different truths? Because you're going to have marketing, they're going to see one reality, merchandising, they're going to see another, operations, a third, and none of them actually are wrong. They just don't line up. They don't line up in a way that illustrates what's really happening. And the result is you have a lack of confident decision making that everyone aligns on. You put that reality under pressure and it's going to show up immediately and not positively. So take a common luxury scenario, a creator. So in our case, that might be a sommelier with a large following. So that creator, they're going to review and highlight a rare limited product. That goes out, social media, as demand spikes, marketing sees this wave of new interest, and they're going to get excited, that get a signal, they're going to double down. Merchandising, though, at the same time, knows that there's only a limited allocation left. They know the trends, product operations. They're going to see that the PDP is already shifting towards limited availability. They're not talking. Certainly aren't seeing the same reality. Customer comes in, they see and experience all of it. And they're seeing the same fragmentation because at one moment, they're going to discover something's really exciting and it's trending and what's going on here. And the next moment, they're going to be met with low or no availability. What are they going to do? They're going to bounce. They're upset. Unless somehow they're going to stick around because they have great FOMO. They're not going to come back. So every team is staring at a different truth. Again, they're not wrong. They just don't have a full picture. And the only way to get through that with current systems, if they're still that way, is perfect communication. And we want that, but we can also sense some reality. So without the full picture, you can't distinguish between things like a healthy demand and some sort of structural bottleneck. And that's exactly why organizations end up optimizing for the wrong thing.
Yeah, that's totally spot on. I mean, things really break down when agents encounter that fractured data landscape. An agent needs to know not just what changed, but how that change relates to all those other persistent structural pieces of the business. And the agents are going to choose where they're going to look. So if they look in the wrong direction, you're going to end up with really bad decisions. It's something we've learned, how we've focused on integrating all of those pieces so that they're available to us at that moment where we need to make those decisions in a very integrated way. So, Danielle, from your perspective, what's the impact, that you've seen? How do you feel this integration has that real impact on both our business and then how that applies to others?
Yeah, well, great example, Paul. And I agree with everything you're saying, Matt. And the reality is it absolutely impacts the business. Without having good information to glean business insights on, it's hard to make the best decision possible. But once you give people that aha moment, Matt, exactly what you were just talking about, then I think the whole architectural conversation shifts and people start to understand the power in what we're talking about here. So I think as people really wrap their brains around it, they stop thinking in terms of isolated tools and IT and data and really start thinking in terms of systems and environments. And that's really where the magic starts to happen.
Which is exactly why this shift is massive. The scenario I illustrated is not at all about product availability. It's about architecture. That's the problem. So when your systems don't share the same underlying context, every team is going to end up working from its own version of reality. But you start to move towards that coherent environment, a shared contextual foundation, everything changes. You get products, services, campaigns, they're all going to show up, right place, right time. Business is finally speaking one language. There's no more rebuilding the context every single morning.
And that is the real unlock, something we've, learned and executed on here. It's when that stream and that state live in the same landscape, when that real-time derivation and that long-term integration are cohered in one environment, the business becomes infinitely more navigable. And as you mentioned, Paul, teams can coordinate much better. Danielle, you can see the insights that are key and strategic to the business. And it allows those AI agents, those agentic users out in the wild to really make good reasoned decisions. Their insights just stop contradicting each other, and the outcomes we get across the board are that much better.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I'm still thinking a little bit about that idea of a coherent environment that Paul just mentioned. It's not really just about unifying data, right? And I think Paul touched on that. It's more about unifying how the organization understands itself and then acts going forward.
Yeah, you want to talk about unlocks? Unifying the data truly unlocks the ability, or really it's the power to unify the organization. The organization is unified now at this point around a shared reality. So this is why teams who finally experience that real continuity never want to go back. I mean, who would? Good people are really shocked when they realize how much of their operational drag came from reconciling those version truths instead of doing the actual work.
And, agents register that enhanced system coherence right away. Their behavior becomes more stable, interpretable, because the world around them is finally stable and interpretable. When you hear about agents needing support of model context protocol implementations, MCPs, it's the context that we're emphasizing here. The better integrated it is, the more deterministic and timely insights the agents can derive, the more accurate and useful their engagements will be.
Fun fact, I'm a pro at reconciling and reconciliations because I am a recovering accountant. So I get a little bit of the jitters hearing you talk about that, Paul. There's really so much to unpack here. I want to continue this discussion, probably not today, because we could be here all night and it's wine time. But if there's a single idea that I want people to take away from this conversation, it's really that intelligence, whether it's human or machine, it's not an afterthought. It's not something we bolt on at the end, right? It's really something that emerges from the continuity of the environment, which is based on smart architectural decisions. And when the data world is coherent, intelligence has a solid place to stand. And that has been true for some time, but it's really now more important than ever.
Yeah, but look, here's the good news. Once you see this, or once you see even the potential, the path forward, super obvious. You stop obsessing over, I need more data, and you start focusing on the alignment, the meaning, the purpose, across the organization. You're focusing less on dashboards, and now you're designing the world that they're supposed to represent. And this shift is only going to accelerate as these agents are moving towards the center of SEO. Crawling is going to be becoming an agentic activity. Look, you've all seen this. Google is pushing hard with Gemini inside of search. It's been out. ChatGPT is rolling out shopping research. And as a customer, I mean, it sort of feels like going back to the browser wars of the mid 2000s. But today, the competition is between agents instead of browsers. But I've got wine, but I figure that's a topic for another day.
Yeah, definitely. In a future discussion, we're going to go a lot deeper into how we designed and implemented that coherence here at Sommsation in our data lake city, Lucerne. But to wrap this and really to emphasize Danielle's point kind of as a takeaway, when that world is coherent, everything else, workflows, analytics, user behavior, agentic behavior, finally starts working the way it was always supposed to.
Yeah. And we're going to have to continue that conversation soon, because the future, it's already here. And every day it is getting bigger, faster, more decisions to be made. Not more software for people to click through, right? It's not about software anymore. It's about the environments. It's about the architecture. It's about places where intelligence, human or machine intelligence, can actually think clearly. And we have to set both our people and our technology up for success here. So we're entering a world where continuity isn't just a nice to have, it's actually the ground that we're standing on. And without it, things can actually go detrimentally wrong. Mm-hmm. With that, I want to thank you guys for your time. Hopefully your wine is opening up as great as mine. Cheers.
Cheers.
But I look forward to continuing this conversation and unpacking a couple of these concepts a little further.
Definitely. And thank you, everybody, for listening in. We're looking forward to our future conversations.
Take care.
Cheers.
Cheers.